So this story started when I was 12. I had a few friends over for a random sleepover, and one of my friends, Sierra, had just recently gotten into ghost hunting shows, and she wanted to try it out for herself, but she was too scared to do it alone. She had bought a white quartz crystal and tied it to a piece of string in order to communicate with ghosts. In order for this crystal to work, you were supposed to hold it still a few inches above the ground or table. None of my friends were brave enough to do it themselves, so I just kind of volunteered. At the time, I didn't believe in ghosts, so I just wanted to prove there was no such thing as spirits to my friends so we could go back to doing kid stuff. So the way this crystal works is you're supposed to ask the spirit yes or no questions, and the crystal was supposed to move in circles if the answer is yes, but if the answer is no, it would stick straight out, unmoving even if you touched it. So we all got in a circle and we were holding the crystal. I let my friends ask all the questions. At first, my friends would ask the usual stuff that you see on TV. Is there anyone here with us? Are you angry? Show us a sign you're here. Nothing, not even a wiggle. We poked the crystal. It moved with our touch, so that meant no contact. Then I finally got sick of the game and I said, "See, I told y'all there's no such thing as ghosts." And the very second I said that, the crystal started spinning. We all looked at it shocked. "Erin?" Sierra asked me. "Are you doing that?" I was honestly too shocked to even look away from the moving crystal. Before I could make a sound, one of the other girls that was there jokingly said, "Hey, spirit, do you like Erin?" The crystal immediately stopped mid-spin. I hesitantly touched it. It wouldn't move. We all got anxious. "Do you hate Erin?" The crystal started spinning quickly. "Do you want to hurt Erin?" The crystal kept spinning, maybe a little quicker than before. At this point, I was completely horrified, but I was trying to act tough. "Let's stop playing this game," I said, and quickly put down the crystal. My friends agreed, though they were still curious and wanted to continue questioning the spirits. The rest of the night passed uneventfully until it was time to go to bed. We all got comfortable in my little room, 2 of us on the bed and 2 on the floor. Just when we had stopped all the giggling and joking around and we were starting to get quiet, a 5-second long, uncomfortable, eerie dead silence was felt by all of us. Right after the 5 seconds passed, the door to my room slammed shut. We screamed. It was loud. My parents ran to my room to see if everything was okay, and they entered a room full of 12-year-old terrified screaming girls. Once they eventually calmed us down, we managed to get a few hours of sleep. The next morning, my friend Kylie mentioned a weird dream she had about a man in a raggedy suit standing in my closet staring at us. Sierra then stated that she had had the exact same dream. Same details and everything. We then came to the conclusion that maybe it wasn't a dream. A few years later, I was home alone because my parents were in another state visiting some other friends, and both of my brothers were at boot camp. I was pretty tired that day from work and school, so I went to bed at like 8:30, but 10 rolled around and something stirred me from my sleep. I laid on my back, but my eyes drowsily moved to the door. My brother's room is right next to mine, and the bathroom was right across the hallway from my brother's room. I saw what I assumed was my brother walk from his room to the bathroom, turn on the light, but not shut the door behind him. All I really thought was, "Dang it, John, close the door behind you when you go to the bathroom." It took a full 10 seconds for it to sink in that it in fact was not my brother. Also, the light was still on. This fact roused me from any hint of drowsiness or sleepiness that I had. I went to go see who was in the bathroom. I grabbed my hunting knife because I was sure someone had broken in. I turned the corner, but nobody was in the bathroom. I then shut the light off and quickly ran to bed holding my hunting knife the whole night. On my 16th birthday, I had a couple of friends over for a sleepover, one of which was Kylie, one of the girls from the first night of my ghost story. We were hanging out in the living room when Kylie had to get up to go pee. While she was there, my other friend and I suddenly got the feeling we were being watched. All of a sudden, I heard a deep, grumbling voice from right behind my ear whisper, "Get out." So I grabbed my friend's arm and we raced out of there. "Did you hear that too?" I asked her. "I thought you said that. Who said get out?" she replied. Kylie ran out of the house after us, and before we could say anything, she said that she had felt like she was being watched and that she got extremely cold, as if she had just stepped into a freezer. We then told Kylie what happened, and both of the girls went home early. I said sent in a story that involved my family about a month ago, but I have another that my sister has told me since she moved to Indianapolis. My sister moved into her first house with her fiance almost 2 years ago. It was an older 3-bedroom house with a basement, screened-in patio, and 2-car garage. It was perfect for them since my parents, my kids, and I all love to come up and visit and stay overnight. A few months after moving in, though, strange things started happening. My sister has always been sensitive to spirits and has seen them her whole life, but whatever was in the house wouldn't show itself to her. It started out with little things, doors opening overnight and lights turning on and off. The dogs they had didn't seem to like it though. They brushed it off thinking it was the old man who had lived in that house before them. After a year, my sister began acting very odd. She got a job that was completely opposite of her and began sneaking around her husband and lying. She even began to push her family away. It was completely unlike her. It was getting close to the due date of my daughter, so she came down for a family gathering and we all agreed she needed to spend time down here with us for a little while. That's when she admitted that she had felt like a different person up there and around the house. At times, she would do things and not remember them at all. She spent a month with us before going back to Indiana. My parents went and saged the house and my sister felt a little better. My dad gave her some blessed metals that he had gotten while in the military and left some sage with her, but this only seemed to make things stronger. They recently had a roommate move in with them to help with bills and he was in college. They all had concealed carries and they had their licenses. They've all been friends since high school. One night, the roommate had gotten out of classes early and came home before everyone else. She said he looked up before walking in and said he saw an old man standing in the laundry room window. He went in, gun ready, but found no one in the house, and the dogs were going crazy. After this incident, they asked the neighbor and the realtor about the history of the house. The old man that they had thought lived there before them had fallen in the patio area and was rushed to the hospital. He was then put into a retirement home where he passed away. But there was a family who lived there after him. They were a young couple who had a baby, and all they could find out about them was that for some reason they grabbed everything they could and left. They left their furniture, some scattered baby clothes, food in the fridge and cabinets, and a load of clothes in the dryer. No one has heard from them since. The most recent event happened while my sister was home alone before going to work. She was getting ready to take a shower and came into the living room to grab a bottle of body wash. She said she glanced over and thought she saw a face. She didn't think anything of it and grabbed the bottle. When she turned to go back to the bathroom, there indeed was a face in her window. She described it as being not human. There were no noticeable features and it was completely distorted and all the dogs were growling at the window. She ran to the bathroom and shut the door. My sister's husband has also been alone in the house and heard a very creepy, "Hey," in a gravelly voice around the same day that this happened. They still have the small things that happened all the time, mostly the basement door opening on its own. And they were recently contacted by a local paranormal group to come out and do an investigation. They're working with the group to figure out a day for the investigation now. As long as I can remember, I've had a presence, if you want to call it that, around me since I was young. My childhood best friend and I have been through some pretty weird things, and most we don't remember because we were so young, but for a while, my friend told me she started to feel that presence again when we were 14 to 15 years old. I was staying at her house one night, as usual, and we started talking about demons and exorcisms. It started to freak us out, so we quit talking about it and moved on with our night. Earlier that same day was when she said she felt the presence around me again. I left the room, which to my luck was in a furnished basement, and it gave me the creeps anyway. But nevertheless, nature called and I ran to the bathroom that was down there. 3 or 4 minutes while being in there, I heard a knock on the bathroom door. Assuming it was my friend, I said, "I'll be out in a few." Then I heard laughing. So I thought she was up to something. So after I was done, I opened the door to see what looked like my friend running around the massive air conditioning unit that was down there because we played around it a lot. I jumped through the opening in the middle to catch her to realize she wasn't there. I immediately got scared and hollered for her and didn't receive an answer. Not even seconds later, the light shut off and her bedroom door shuts. At this point, I'm in tears because I hear laughing and I didn't know what was going on and I couldn't see her anywhere. I ran to the bedroom door because the light in her bedroom was still on, so that was all the light that I had. I started screaming for her to let me in. After a couple of minutes, the laughing stopped, but I couldn't get the door open. Then all of a sudden, the basement door upstairs opened and she was standing there with 2 glasses for us. I immediately turned pale and vomited. I was so scared and so confused. I didn't tell her till years later what had happened, and her parents moved out to a new house and everybody said that they felt something about that house. It was the most terrified I had ever been in my life. I do have one more story for you. It's my mother's story. I had mentioned my family has a long line of spiritual people from a Native American tribe. Well, I asked her if it was okay to tell the story, and she was really hesitant, but finally gave the okay. She was 16 years old and made her money babysitting for the neighbors in her area out in the country. She said one of the families that she babysat for used to be an Amish home back in the day. I did some digging on this property's history and she told me this story. During the Great Depression, the whole family had been murdered by the husband, supposedly. It was even hard times for them. My mom never had that idea during this time. Back to the story though. She had said that she had laid all the kids to bed and it was very late. She remembered that she was watching old-time Halloween specials on TV. She was spooked by the old grandfather clock that was as old as the house. She noticed the time was midnight and made herself a bed on the couch. She felt almost nervous once the light was out. She was convinced it was because of watching all the scream flicks. She remembered hiding under the covers and trying to close her eyes. She started to hear footsteps down the hall where the kids' rooms were. She jumped up, maybe to see that somebody had broken in, but down the hall she saw no one. She went to the cabinet that housed all the family's guns. Living in rural Iowa, everyone has a gun. She turned back around and the air around her dropped 20 degrees. It was so cold that her breath could be seen. She remembered that she could hear the furnace kick on, but the temperature just kept getting colder. She walked towards the door and realized it was still locked. She continued through the kids' rooms and checked through the doors. The first room, the 2 boys were out cold. She giggled mid-story and said she remembered they were even snoring. She had turned towards the little girl's room and she could hear the little girl whimpering. She tore through the door and the little girl was standing up in her crib crying and pointing towards my mom, but almost past her. My mom could feel what felt like claws on her back, then a burning feeling. She whipped around, gun aimed at whatever caused the burning feeling on her back. There, she said, stood a man-like figure. It stood as tall as the ceiling and it was scrunched over. There were no eyes and no facial features, but a glowing smile. My mom remembers throwing the door shut and grabbing the little girl. She could hear steps back down the hallway. When they stopped, she peeked through the door and saw nothing. So she rushed to the boys' room, waking them, and they went through the window out to the front lawn. She got to her car and went to the neighbors. She had called the parents to tell them where they were. That was the last time that she babysat for them, and the family soon moved out after. My mother actually still has scars from that thing. She blesses those scars every night to try to keep the creature away.